Jason Buttrill, our chief researcher, is with us. He has been, I should say, doing the lion's share of the reading and work of all of the leaked memos, all of the stuff that is coming out of Washington D.C. and helping me put together the schematic, if you will, the architecture of the deep state. And for the very first time, Jason, I think on the TV show last night, we could actually fill in on a chalkboard. Last night, I think, was one of the first that I could say there's no real missing pieces here. Everything here is how it works, and here are the documents that show how it works. Here are the documents to show you who's involved, and here's what they've been doing for the last 25 years. I don't know. Have we ever done a chalkboard like that where we knew all of the facts?
We've done pieces of this chalkboard where
Correct.
we didn't have all the facts. Where we were like, this happened. We'd need a little bit more context. We know about
Yeah.
this.
It
And then
looks like this, and we are drawing the conclusion that it is this.
right.
But now we have all of it to prove the deep state is real and how it works, who's working it, and what they've done.
Yeah, Glenn, I got to be perfectly honest with you. I've never been so overwhelmed my entire career working with you. And the closest maybe I've gotten was back when we were exposing a lot of the Ukraine
Ukrainian thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
There was so many FOIA releases, a bunch of stuff to look through.
Yeah.
There was so much information. That doesn't hold a candle. Like we talked to John Solomon last night on the TV show, where he's like, "There's going to be another FBI release that we're going to be reporting
And
tomorrow."
it's
I was like,
big.
"Oh my God." It's
And it's
huge.
huge. Go over that. Go over that release. I just had Peter Schweitzer on last hour to talk about
So
it.
yeah, that goes way back to the Hillary Clinton or the Clinton Foundation, and her investigation over pay for play and everything she was doing while she was Secretary of State. If you watch last night's show, you will recognize a few names. She talked about the DOJ through Sally Yates, which I don't believe we actually have in our chalkboard, but they did mention FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe.
Yep.
Both of them
He was on the
were
chalkboard.
instrumental.
Yep.
He was on the chalkboard. He shows up in multiple different scandals, but he was saying nothing goes through on this investigation without my personal approval. So he was the gatekeeper, and a lot of the things going towards Hillary
And
Clinton.
they
Sally,
actually, we have the documents now from three separate FBI sources that were investigating at the local levels in three different districts. And the head of the FBI came and said, "Shut it down. Shut it down. You're not to do it." And then, as you said, McCabe came in and said, "You're not to investigate anything without my express written permission to do it." What is that all about?
this is a theme that I'm seeing. There was another release. I was like, oh my gosh, I heard that from Solomon yesterday. I got back to my desk, speaking of being overwhelmed, and then there was a 266 page release from the FBI. Well, it's FBI information on investigations on the leaks. Now, we had heard about Adam Schiff. He was also on our chalkboard last night, but he was allegedly leaking information through the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. He had a Russia room. It goes in these documents talking about the Russia room, where a whistleblower was saying we shouldn't be having all this classified information going into this room, where people that probably shouldn't have access are going through it. We definitely shouldn't be handing this stuff off to reporters. But it goes in even deeper, Glenn, where it talks about how Adam Schiff was, I don't know how to. He was pissed off because he wanted Hillary Clinton to win because he thought he was a shoe-in to be the next CIA director under
Oh
Hillary
my
Clinton.
gosh. Could you
Says it
imagine if that happened?
right. Oh, that Glenn. If he's doing so much from the deep state from where he was at before, where he's still at now, what would he be incapable of as director of the CIA?
Oh
This is
my
how the deep
gosh.
state operates. It's a living, breathing machine. It tries to get larger and larger and spread out. That's what it was trying to do. More from that 266-page report. Another name from last night, James Comey, pops up again. He was also allegedly leaking information, classified information, through a Columbia University professor who was then taking that information and then going, allegedly, to some of these media outlets and giving them what would appear damaging information out into the public. We talked about this last night,
Yeah.
Glenn. This is one of the levers that the deep state uses: media amplification through leaks, through applied pressure. And we're seeing it everywhere
Yeah.
right now.
Last night we broke it up into three categories. First, who are the idea men? Where does it all come? What agencies does it come from? And then where does it go from there? How do they begin to launder it? And then what are the levers of pressure and power in the third level? And when you look at it, where's the money coming from? This is why they were screaming about USAID, and they're still screaming about we have to have these NGOs. You're going to kill 16 million people unless you have these NGOs, because all of this money was coming from you. What was the example I talked about last night, Jason, where I'm like, they were, now this is my speculation. Maybe you can back it up with facts, but I said last night on a TV show, I laid out all of these color revolutions. The same people using the same things. They did it over and over and over and over again. Arab Spring, everything. We were responsible for all of that. I shouldn't say we were. The deep state was responsible for all of this. And then it stops in 2016, and you think it stops. But what I said last night was the same people were doing it. They just took this and made it into a color revolution on America. First on Donald Trump, and then really on America. They're using the same tools, the same thing that they learned, in 2000 when they started this thing.
Yeah, going along those lines, it makes you wonder. You talk about funding, you talk about street activists, how the template and the model they perfected going back to Serbia in the year 2000, go all the way through all the different color revolutions. They always used government money through USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, groups like that. Those would go down to other groups like George Soros, which his groups were involved in nearly every single color revolution.
We always thought George Soros was using his money. He wasn't. He was using your tax dollars. A lot of this money is coming from your tax dollars. It was being funneled to these people through agencies that would go then to NGOs. All of this stuff on Donald Trump, all of these things. I mean, what is the group that is in Washington, D.C. that are standing up, crying fascism? They started the day Donald Trump had the press conference. That night, they were in the streets. Really well organized. Tell me about this group.
The group now that's protesting, Donald Trump's, use of law enforcement and the National Guard in Washington, D.C. They're doing a protest called the Free D.C. Protests. And the group is Community Change and Community Change Action. Mm-hmm. And you'll never guess, Glenn, you've probably never spoken about who's bankrolled these groups before.
George Soros?
Never have.
Yeah.
George Soros, number one.
Yeah.
What's another one that starts with a T?
Tides Foundation.
Ding, ding, ding. Another one, Arabella Advisors.
Oh, my gosh.
We've all of these, and they're on the chalkboard from last night. This is a carbon copy. It makes you wonder. I'm starting to wonder now. I've heard multiple people say this, that maybe possibly having the National Guard and federal police officers in Washington, D.C. is more than just the crime, which, as we've pointed out before, is still very, very high in the Capitol. I wonder if they're also curious about what's about to happen with all these leaks, with all these groups, because they know who the deep state is. They know where the funding comes from. They know the groups. Those groups are active right now in Washington, D.C., probably all over the country. What else is coming next? Because the leaks are not stopping. As I said, I'm overwhelmed. They're not stopping.
Yeah.
How far are they willing to go? That's my next question.
John Solomon said, this is the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's just not, it's like a fire hose of revelations now. And there are billions of dollars at stake. These Arabella Advisors, the Tides Foundation, billions of dollars at stake. Billions of dollars. Thousands of people involved, organizations all over the world, the power involved. This structure is not going to go away quietly. And it's sad that we don't have a real press. I guess we do. It's just not what we used to have. It's not on TV, but nobody's watching TV anymore, I guess, so it doesn't matter. But there are a few journalists that are actually digging and really trying to put this together. And we've got to pay attention to it because this is the biggest gift I've ever seen in my lifetime. I have never had access to more documents that I have wanted to see for 25 years. I've never had more answers to questions that I've had for 25 years than right now. This is a giant gift of freedom to the American people if they decide to follow it. Jason, thank you so much. We'll talk again.
Thanks.